Joining me today is Dennis Wakabayashi, nicknamed the Global Voice of Customer Experience. He is the curator of the CX Hall of Fame, which celebrates the best and the brightest stars in our field, and is a notable host of podcasts and YouTube channels CX in the Wild and the CXT Show. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Dennis. Welcome.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on your show. I always love being on this show of other great podcasters.
Oh, thank you. It is an honor to have you, and I'm really excited for our conversation today. You get to be in the guest seat today, so you get to switch it all up.
So much easier here.
It's a lot of fun. There's not a lot of responsibility. You get to just talk all things CX, so it's going to be wonderful. Awesome. All right, well, let's kick it off. I would love to know a little bit more about yourself, your experience, and how you even got into this crazy world of customer experience.
You know, we're all in the world of customer experience, right? It probably started as a young age as a customer. But in all seriousness, I was in advertising and marketing. I worked for some major brands, helping them during the early years as customer experience became a thing in business. However, while I liked working on the strategy of customer experience, I became more sympathetic to the challenges of people who were trying to develop the industry. And that led me to want to help celebrate, explore, empower the people and the innovators, the brands of the world who were actually making progress or surviving or enduring this business transformation, sorry for the buzzword, that was happening. And that led me to be a content creator. And that story plays itself out differently around the world for different kinds of people. And this investigation has taken me to some of the most dangerous cities in the world on the front lines in South Africa, to some of the most spectacular experiences in the world in Dubai. I'm starting another documentary now about building call centers in Poland 30 years after communism. So I'm really interested in the truth and the perseverance of customer experience in its many forms through the eyes of the many people that make it happen.
That is so interesting. Quite the intro as well. I know we have a lot of insight to unpack here. And I guess this is a pretty simple question I would say for you maybe, but I think a lot of people would love to know. To you, what is the mark of excellent customer experience and why?
You know, that's a great question. I thought about that in preparation for this. And if you don't mind, Lauren, rather than answer that question, because I think a lot of people will answer that, and I think you'll get a lot of different answers, but as one creator to another, you know what? You're looking for value. You want your guests to give your content something that your listeners and audiences can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
So what I will tell you is, rather than answer that, I'll tell you what the number one most important customer experience there is. And no one talks about it. And I have been around the world. And if any brand anywhere can capitalize on this or deliver it, they will set themselves apart or experience wins or success that they normally would have never had before. And let's just, for the sake of your podcast, let's call it the greatest customer experience on earth. And that is the experience of luck.
Interesting. Okay, tell me how. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. So what I would say there is, what customers want most is the feeling of an unexpected win. That's the experience they want most.
The feeling of an unexpected win. Interesting.
They want to feel like the universe is conspiring with them or for them. That's what they want.
That's so interesting because I'm just thinking about how even just in all these different scenarios that you might be in, whether it's traveling or visiting different companies or working with different cultures, there's just that one thing that could make you feel like you had an unexpected win to take you from that feeling of, oh, this is fine, to this is an exceptional customer experience.
You get it.
That's so interesting. Okay, so going off of that methodology or that thinking, then how does a company, let's say all the people listening to this podcast right now, they're thinking, okay, that's great, but how do I create that experience for my customers? How do I go about creating that feeling of an unexpected win? What advice do you have for those business owners and those or those people who want to create that unexpected win for their customers?
That there is the North Star that each brand, each professional, if they want to look up in the sky of CX, that's a North Star that they can follow. It'll mean something different to each people, each situation, wherever you are on the landscape. And to your point, if it's in travel, maybe it's you get upgraded to first class. If it's you are checking out and you suddenly get buy one, get one free. Maybe it's you get pulled over and you get a warning instead of a ticket. There's all these experiences that can endear you to the organization that are easy to deliver, but they don't happen as often as they should.
Interesting. And so would you be able to narrow that down, let's say, into 2 factors or so that are always involved in good customer experience from a retention point of view, and what do they look like? I guess I drill down even more into that question because people are always looking for actionable tips. They're always looking for ways to, when they listen to this podcast, they go home and they're like, okay, I'm ready to hit the ground running. So I would probably ask maybe if you had like 2 different factors that are always involved in good customer experience to try and help think through that.
Well, I think because you focus a lot on retention. I think about retention as customer lifetime value or loyalty. And to understand loyalty and retention, you have to understand what's really happened to our economies. We started out as a sales funnel, top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. And then the information age happened and the algorithms happened. And I recognized in my practice that now you have reputation, reach, and relationships. And these are technologies. Reputation, social media, reach is like digital search, and relationships are the CRMs or the marketing automations. And these three technologies work as this flywheel. So and they also work top of the funnels, reputation, social, middle search, bottom email. But if you think about that, a strong reputation leads to cheaper cost per click reach, and those lead to higher lead and better conversions and email marketing automation. So in practice, a sympathetic approach to reputation, reach, and relationship will be faster acceleration through the funnel, and it will lead to a lower cost per click. So shorter sales cycle, lower cost per click. And on the retention side, the automation of the relationship. And here's where I think, to answer your question specifically, I believe, and I think your listeners all have very good insights because I know you focus on this, but my opinion, the most important factor to retention is personalization.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. That's actually something I always
think. All right, I thought the test. I know you wanted my opinion, but if I get this wrong, she's going to cancel me right here.
The podcast is over. We're done. Unfortunate. No, you hit the nail on the head, my friend, because I think what's actually really interesting is that we bring on guests from all different backgrounds, all different industries, all different focuses and perspectives. But that actually seems to be one of the main themes that I continue to hear. And even with Gameball, the platform, we're really focused on personalization because the fact is every customer is not the same. It's not a one size fits all. It's not a just slap it on and see if it works for everybody. More and more with more AI, with more data, everything that we have these days in abundance means that it's giving us the opportunity to personalize things and be able to do better with that. So
Let's unpack. So let's get advanced. You know the problem with personalization?
Tell me.
We're not all the same person all the time.
Dang, that does actually add on a very interesting layer. I haven't heard that.
I'll tell you an example. I worked on a campaign once where the city had this extra bunch of money, and they wanted to create safety in the workplace on construction sites. Okay, and that's a very important thing. You don't want people getting injured while they're building buildings in your city. It's just like, it's not good for anyone, not for the economy, short term, long term, not good for the people. So here was the idea. Let's help the city understand the importance of workplace safety. So let's do some interesting television commercials about the importance of workplace safety. And here's what we said. The guy who works on that construction site, who has to be focused on workplace safety, when he gets home and he's sitting on his couch, he's not the same guy who works on that construction site. When he sits on that couch and he watches that TV, he's not thinking about workplace safety. He doesn't care about it and he doesn't want to think about it. You want to promote workplace safety, you put things in the workplace. You don't put that stuff at the other place. He's an entirely different gentleman at the end of his day than he is at the beginning of his day. And I think we see that a lot. And I'm going to tell you something controversial that I learned from a researcher recently. And I don't know how it is in Canada. And this is not throwing shade, but this is as two professionals talking. If you ever try to do a scientific test on the behavior of customers, a truly scientific test, it's not as easy to find a sample group that isn't medicated. So depending upon what kind of medications you might be on for your mental state, to regulate your mood or your whatever it is, you may or may not be the person that you were when you were 6 months ago, or before you took your medication, or before you started drinking, or before you smoked that weed, or whatever it is. So it's not as easy to personalize as people think.
It's a great point, because that example of the person who's on the construction site coming home, they're a different person, down to the group that is possibly altered in their mindset, or not mindset, sorry, in their frame of reference or whatever it might be. These are all just examples of different contexts of who we are. Even myself, I'm at the office right now, but when I get home, I'm a different person because I'm focused on different things and different things matter to me. So I guess the question to you then is, how do you go about understanding who all the different versions of Lauren are as she's a customer throughout the day? Because let's say, for example, I'd walk you through my typical day. If I'm waking up in the morning and I'm going downtown Toronto to go work, I'm more likely to go buy a coffee or a muffin or something like that before getting on the train, because I want something to eat while I'm commuting. While I'm commuting, I'm thinking about all things work-related. I'm more likely to consider new requests, business proposals, etc. And then on the way back, I'm much more in a calmed and relaxed mode because the workday is done. I'm more focused on things about myself. So I don't know, I might look at more shampoo and hair care, or I might look at skincare things, or going out for dinner with my family, or whatever it might be. So how do you advise companies, or how do you yourself go about breaking down all the different versions of Lauren to make sure that you catch her at the right time?
I'm going to answer that question for you, but I want to enlighten you, because you're a young person and you positioned yourself to rapidly become one of the foremost experts in our industry, because your inquiring mind is taking the time to speak to so many people. I want to share with you one of the most enlightening moments I've had in this whole conversation around the world. There was a woman named Ala Al-Sharugi. She was head of customer experience, interactive digital customer experiences at Expo 2020 Dubai.
Wow.
One of the most incredible experiences on earth. And, I interviewed her, and I felt like I had seen quite a bit in my life. And they flew me to interview them. So I thought I was like pretty smart.
Absolutely.
And I realized really quickly when I spoke to that group, I was not very smart at all. I asked her about this, and she enlightened me about something she discovered. Hear me out. She described experience like this. She said, if you watch and learn about experiences, a mother and a daughter can go into an experience and go in as two separate people and have an experience and come out having the same shared experience and be changed in such a way to be the same in certain ways. So in your example, you described, I go out to dinner with my family. Something about that makes all of you the same person in some way.
Right.
That shared experience is a dynamic that we always think of ourselves as individual experiences, but that's not quite true. Everything we touch changes who we are as an experienced target. So to answer your question academically, here's the only way I can figure out how to do this. The only way to really actually talk to you, who you are, to personalize is to have a dialogue with you. I can't predict who you're going to be today or tomorrow. I can't do any of that. What I have to do is I have to move you down the funnel. I have to get you into a dialogue, and I have to say, hey, would you like fries with that? And if you say no, I say, okay, tater tots. And if you're like, yes, I give you tater tots. And if that exchange doesn't happen digitally, conversationally, by text, by some sort of mechanism, if you don't have interaction by human to human is the easiest, but AI is sort of getting us there. If you don't have a conversation, then your ability to personalize is just a hallucination.
Wow, a lot to unpack. But really, it really makes you think. And that's what my favorite aspect of these kinds of conversations are, because we're looking at retention. And obviously, the fact is retention, customer experience, all of this fun stuff comes down to the human being at the end of the day. And so that's why I really like these conversations, because you see all these different perspectives and understanding. And it makes me think about how, when I'm working with my customers, how am I thinking about their different versions of themselves, and how I can get into that human to human contact with them to really understand how I'm supposed to be working with them.
The irony that you just said that. You want to know what's hard to walk away from? You want to know what's easy to retain and what's hard to walk away from is human to human. Easy to walk away from a computer screen.
Yeah.
Easy to walk away from a chatbot. Easy to walk away from a newspaper or a magazine.
Yeah.
Hard to walk away from a human.
So true. So if you see me running the streets talking to people, then I got that insight from you on this one.
Yeah.
And I guess one thing to kind of bring our conversation to an end, I'm curious because obviously you are the host of a podcast all about customer experience, shocker. And I'm curious that when you bring the experts, just like the lovely lady that you mentioned before, have you noticed any patterns or similarities in their opinions or their passions or how they talk about customer experience?
It's funny you should say that. The thing about my podcast is it's called CX in the Wild. And here's my thing. I have no format. I have no sponsors. I don't have any plan, rhyme, or reason. It's completely random and abstract. I've interviewed the chauffeur from a hotel. I've interviewed the global CEO of major corporations. I have no plan about who I'm going to interview. I interview people who I think have said something smart. I believe that everyone has a role or an idea that they play in the human experience. And here's the thing about me, Lauren. My basic platform is there is a lot of conflict or drama in the world today.
Right.
A lot of content about conflict, you name it.
Yeah.
And if you think about customer service happening 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, thousands and thousands and millions of customer care conversations where the entire intent of that conversation is to get one person who's having a problem to be relieved of their problem and to have a smile. My perspective was all of these people are trying to contribute to the goodness of the economy, to the goodness of people in every language, everywhere. And those stories and those humans don't get enough content time. So that's my thing. My common similarity in my content is I'm just trying to find people who are in one way or another part of the conversation that makes the world a better place.
I love that. Also, sounds like I know my next episode or my next podcast that I'll be listening to on my commute home. So that's really interesting. And I think my favorite insight about that is that you interview people from all different roles. So it's not just all CEOs of the biggest corporations in the world because there's different viewpoints to be had. And it actually makes me think of recently I was talking to a massage therapist, and it was just super random and like very different parallels of working in software and you're talking to a massage therapist. And he was talking about how every time his customers come in, they always come into a empty waiting room. And the reason why is because he sometimes even has the customers come to him and ask, is your business doing okay? Is everything all right? It's always empty in your waiting room. But he said, the reason I do that is actually on purpose. I never want someone coming in for a massage to ever feel like they're in a rush or they're waiting or somebody else is in the room and then it's dirty from that person for some reason. I always want them to feel like that experience is solely for them and their relaxation. And just thinking about that is quite incredible because there's a lot of parallels in so many different use cases, industries, other ways to think about business. But he really thought about, what does somebody feel when they're coming for a massage? What do I want them to feel from start to finish, from the moment they enter the therapist's office all the way to leaving the clinic? And what does that experience look like? So I really respect that you have such a range of people because there's such a different perspective that you can get from different groups and different types of people.
Lauren, thank you for sharing that story because it's so real. I want to just acknowledge that and say, I went to some of the most dangerous places in South Africa, places where there was a murder every 48 hours.
Oh my gosh.
To interview frontline agents who live there, who take calls to help people around the world in customer service, customer experience. And I asked them, and I said, here was my story in my mind. I said, here you are. You pick up the phone and you're sitting in this township and you take a call from a guy on a yacht who's out on vacation in the sun, on the ocean, at a pier, and he's calling to complain about a package that he hasn't gotten. And your job is to make him happy. How does that make you feel? And you know what this person said to me? He said, there are 800,000 unemployed people here. I have this job. It provides for my family. I can provide for people around me. We can eat and we have the things we need. And he said, gratitude is a great motivator. And I was like, this is why we talk to the people that we talk to.
I love that. That was like a mic drop at the end of that. So, and actually just the perfect way to end the episode, honestly, because I think it just also leaves us with this reminder that, again, at the end of the day, it's people dealing with people. And having that gratitude is really important from whoever it is you talk to, but you get those really strong insights and those learnings. You probably came away from that conversation just thinking, wow, just revamped on how you think about customer experience and everything that you came from.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And before I let you go, which I know I just said that was the end of the episode, but sometimes we like to ask some fun questions.
Okay.
I have 2 quick fun questions for you, and then I promise we're done. It's just that moment was so good. I learned so much from it. But one quick question in our lightning round is, if you were stuck on a desert island, who in the marketing industry would you want to be stuck there with?
My son.
I love it. That was super lightning round.
My son is, it's funny. When I saw that question, I was thinking, my son is, if for any reason, my son is and I are like, he's my wingman in every situation, any danger, any situation I ever needed anyone, he would be my wingman. And it just turns out he's a smarter, faster, more savvy marketing analyst, strategist than I am.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to have your son on the podcast next time.
Yeah, you really should.
That sounds like a great next episode. Okay, last but not least, this is our final ending thing, I promise. But we always like to end on a piece of advice because I do like to follow that idea of gratitude. And I feel like learning a piece of advice from someone is a great way to end the show. So is there a piece of marketing or life advice that someone shared with you once that has always stayed with you?
I think that an important lesson that I learned and that someone gave me once is that despite how important or smart or informed the information you give someone, the reality is what they will remember or what they will be drawn to is what they already know.
I love that. And that is the perfect note to end our episode today. So thank you so much, Dennis, for joining me. It was a real pleasure to have you. And I know all of our listeners will be jumping to hear this episode and going to Six in the Wild. So thank you so much for joining me on our episode today.
Lauren, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.